Hello, and welcome to ZAP, the Gender Pay Gap, the podcast series where we expose the elephant in the room. The elephant's name, the gender pay gap. I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, located on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Nestled in the southwest corner of the state, Memphis is home to the blues, barbecue, and so much more. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker.
Thank you so very much for joining me for today's episode of ZAP, the Gender Pay Gap. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Look for me on Apple, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. I am so very glad you are joining me today. On the past several episodes, I have stressed the fact women, we are in a fight for pay equity, but some of us don't realize it. We're in a fight and don't realize it because we can't see the elephant in the room. If you've listened in before, you know the elephant's name. Do you remember? Yes, that's right. Elephant's name is the gender pay gap. In some ways, it's like carbon monoxide, odorless, colorless, yet with the capacity to rob us of precious oxygen. It leaves evidence, but we become immune to its presence. It can rob us of a huge chunk of our pay in the blink of an eye, poisoning our financial well being in both the short term and the long term. Speaking of terms, when it comes to discussing the gender pay gap, a number of terms are brandished about. If you know me, you know I like to find out what certain terms mean, to dig into their definitions, to research synonyms and antonyms. I know, sounds strange, but what can I say? Some would say I'm a word nerd, but I prefer to be called a word buff. I like the sound of that better. Don't you? Okay, back to what I was saying. The reason I like to understand what words means is one, so I know what I'm talking about, and two, so I can explain their meaning to you. I don't assume that because we hear the same word, it means the same thing to everyone who hears it. Two of those terms I will share with you today. One is equal pay, and the second is pay equity. When you hear those words, what do they mean to you? Now, some use the words interchangeably, implying that they are the same. I have done the same thing too. But as I have done the research, I realized that they are not the same. I discovered some definitions for these two terms, equal pay and pay equity, that really resonated with me. And I think it will with you as well. It is in research published by the Boston Women's Workforce Council. When it comes to pay equity and equal pay, the Boston Women's Workforce Council says that language matters, that understanding the relationship between equal pay and pay equity is the first thing we talk about with their new 100% talent compact signers. They're doing some wonderful work, this particular organization. They go on to say that equal pay focuses on women doing the same work as men in the same positions. And actually, it has been a law since 1963, pretty long time, which is called the Equal Pay Act. Pay equity, on the other hand, though, is an analysis, and it looks at equal pay for equal work, yes, but it also goes further. And it goes further by considering where underrepresented groups sit in an organization. And it also helps us understand the power gaps that exist. So, equal pay for equal work at one level is very important. But as you move up within the organization, they also, on pay equity, focus on what are what is the disparity? Are there underrepresented groups as you move up within the organization? And so I love how they present this, that pay equity is an analysis, and that analysis looks at equal pay for equal work and considers where underrepresented groups sit in an organization, which also exposes where the power gaps exist. Now, this particular organization goes on to talk about equal pay and pay equity, as it says biases and lack of access to promotions, the bonuses, and flexibility can perpetuate inequities across all levels of an organization, even if equal pay for equal work is in place. And this is why this particular organization focuses on the more comprehensive term of pay equity, because pay equity gives them a better understanding of the reasons behind, get this, the gender wage gaps, as well as racial wage gaps, but not just understanding the reasons, but also helping them determine how to remedy them. So I really appreciate the work of the Boston Women's Workforce Council. And I really love how their research explains the difference between equal pay and pay equity, and why pay equity is more comprehensive and so important. So if you are HR professionals, if you're leaders within an organization, this particular information should be highly relevant to you, as well as to women who are listening to this podcast. Now, sometimes, as I mentioned, that these two terms, equal pay and pay equity, are presented as a choice, sort of like a menu item at a restaurant. Which do you want, ma'am? Or in a clothing store, when selecting an item you've been eyeing. Which of these do you want, ma'am? Which color do you prefer? As if both are not an option. Believe you me, when it comes to pay, you want both. So when someone asks, so which do you want? Tell them, I want both. I want equal pay for equal work, and I want equal access to promotional opportunities to increase and scale my pay. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Women, we are in a fight. Lo and behold, it's not only about equal pay for equal work in our current job, but we're in a fight for pay equity as we progress in our careers. When I left my career in corporate, I was earning base pay, bonus, and bennies in the form of stock options. The bonus and bennies only came as I progressed in my career. That's the way pay systems in corporations work. And to increase your earnings and to move up within the organization, it's going to be important that you are aware of what is going on with pay equity within your specific organization. So, what say you? The next time your employer asks, so which do you prefer, equal pay or pay equity? What will be your reply? I know what mine will be. I want both. I want equal pay in my current job, and I want pay equity as I move up within the organization. It really is possible to have both. That means you can too. But the question is, how bad do you want it? Only you can answer that. Now, women, not only do we work hard for our money, we also spend a lot of time doing it. So you might as well take home all of it. Let me show you how. Let me show you how to take home all of it. Are you ready? If so, reach out to me at gwendolynjtucker.com. On the next episode, I have a topic I think you're really going to like: more money than month. What would that be? Join me and I'll tell you how I did it and how you can do it too. Oops, we're out of time for today, but I do appreciate you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time for the next episode of ZAP, the Gender Pay Gap. Until then, please be well.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of ZAP, the Gender Pay Gap. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow me wherever you get your favorite podcast. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.